It is Tuesday, September 5th, and a Fox News alert begging for war. The U.S. declaring enough is enough from Kim Jong-un.
His abusive use of missiles and his nuclear threats show that he is begging for war.
Well, how Russia and South Korea just responded to this overnight.
And tracking Hurricane Irma, the storm growing stronger, taking aim at the Caribbean with Florida in its crosshairs. How the Sunshine State is now preparing.
And Congress getting back to work today as President Trump makes moves on tax reform. Also, he could phase out DACA for the Dreamers. We're live in Washington. Fox and Friends First starts right now.
You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Tuesday morning. I'm Heather Childers.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. And straight to a Fox News alert this morning. North Korea is, quote, begging for war. Those are fierce words from U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, as she calls for the strongest sanctions possible.
Our allies in South Korea giving a show of force overnight as the nuclear threat from the rogue regime grows. Kelly Wright is live for us in Washington, D.C. with the latest. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Heather and Rob. South Korea displaying its military capabilities overnight, conducting live fire exercises at sea. Even more drills are now planned through Sunday. The show of force in response to North Korea's claim of a successful test on a hydrogen bomb, the country's sixth nuclear test since 2006 and its strongest yet. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, bringing her strongest words yet to the Security Council, telling them the time for half measures is over. Haley urging the council to negotiate the toughest sanctions yet against North Korea in time for a vote on Monday.
Kim Jong-un's action cannot be seen as defensive. His abusive use of missiles and his nuclear threats show that he is begging for war.
South Korea representative to the UN echoing the call for tougher measures against their northern neighbors.
The Security Council must respond to this serious provocation with the adoption of a new resolution containing much tougher measures corresponding to the magnitude and gravity of the test.
And so now the question is whether China and Russia will veto new sanctions. Russian President Vladimir Putin condemning the latest nuclear test overnight, but is still joining China in warning President Trump against starting a fight with North Korea. Both countries instead pushing for negotiations to find a political resolution. And as tensions grow in the Korean peninsula, Japan may reportedly start evacuating its citizens out of South Korea. Roughly 60,000 Japanese citizens live in South Korea right now. Heather?
All right. Thank you very much, Kelly. Kelly Wright live. Thank you.
All right. In just a few hours, Attorney General Jeff Sessions expected to announce the end of President Obama's Dreamer policy that protects illegal immigrant minors from deportation. President Trump expected to give Congress 6 months to find an alternative solution. Lawmakers, including Senator Lindsey Graham, giving their seal of approval, saying, quote, I will be supportive of such a position. I have always believed DACA was a presidential overreach. States attorneys from Washington State and New York have threatened lawsuits if the Dreamer policy is struck down and then sent to Congress to debate.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But in the meantime, to another Fox News alert for you. All eyes on Hurricane Irma, the powerful, life-threatening Category 4 storm, now gaining strength as it sets its sights on the U.S.
Yeah, this one's a beast. Florida and Puerto Rico under states of emergency right now, bracing for this monster storm packed with winds over 140 miles per hour.
Here it comes again. Millions in the path preparing after witnessing all that destruction in Texas.
We've seen the impact of Harvey, so I think it's definitely made a change for us. We need to be prepared.
Well, Janice Dean joins us live tracking Hurricane Irma's path, and you're saying this could get even stronger today, right?
Absolutely. We just got the latest 5 a.m. advisory, now up to 150 miles per hour. 156 makes it a Cat 5. It's got a lot of warm water ahead of it, so not out of the question that we will see a Category 5. Also want to make mention that this will probably become Jose this week behind Irma. So Irma, very well-defined hurricane right now, moving towards the Lesser Antilles. As we get into Thursday, Friday, of course, The Bahamas need to be on alert. Hispaniola, Cuba, and South Florida and the Keys right now, state of emergency, as we are expecting this to come very close to South Florida over the next 5 days. There's the Saffir-Simpson wind scale. So we're at Category 4. It goes up to 5, and we certainly could see that. We haven't, Matthew was a 5 last year, and we will continue to monitor Irma over the next couple of days. Computer models coming into very good agreement, and when the computer models agree, then that's when things start to get serious. So over the next couple of days, northern Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico needs to watch for this, obviously, and the Hispaniola, Haiti, Dominican Republic, up towards Cuba. And you can see the Euro and the GFS coming into very good agreement this weekend. Again, South Florida, but you cannot rule out the possibility of a Gulf of Mexico impact or perhaps an East Coast impact. So Florida, obviously cautious. However, East Coast, Southeast, Gulf Coast needs to monitor this as well. Back to you.
I was reading where this would be the second or first time in over 100 years that 2 Cat 4 hurricanes have hit in the same year.
That I will have to check statistics, but certainly we have not had, a landfall of a major hurricane since Harvey in 12 years. So people need to, and a lot of people live in Florida that have never experienced a hurricane. So I'm concerned with that as well.
Yeah, it's been a while since they've had a major one too.
Yep,
this is
10 years.
We thought this might be a bad year. Okay, thanks so much, Janice.
You got it.
All right, as Hurricane Irma intensifies today, Harvey's death toll continues to rise as Houston and southeast Texas does begin to dry out.
Yeah, but on top of all that, some are now facing new flooding threats, and they're being urged to conserve water. Griff Jenkins live in Houston for us, where people are being asked not to shower. Is that right, Griff?
That's right, Heather and Rob. Good morning. While the mayor says that 95% of the city is dry and that businesses will pretty much be open today in 2 West Houston areas where I am. The water plant had flooding up to 8 feet as of 7 p.m. last night, and so they are asking residents to conserve water, to shower less, to flush their toilets less, to minimize their dishwashers and laundry, because they don't want the sewer in those areas to have a lack of sanitary water. So that is a problem, and what you see behind me is that West Houston area flooding near the reservoirs. We have some drone video. You get to see in this little area that still has several feet of water. The officials behind me keeping the residents in those 4,600 or so homes out because there are still some power circuits running through there, so they're worried about people getting electrocuted. They're worried about the water and the bacteria that has been sitting here for days. They're worried about even still currents as water continues to be released from that Addicks Reservoir a few blocks up behind me. And one of those residents we spoke to, Amy Eichel, says she was very frustrated. She couldn't get in time to secure her things. Here's what she had to say.
All I wanted to do is put like damp rid and seal things up in plastic bins so it can last for a month. They're going to let this swampy water sit for a month in my house, and it'll contaminate everything upstairs too. I'm incensed that they're not letting us in to take care of our homes when we had no warning.
We still have a curfew in effect until 5 a.m., but the mayor saying on Twitter that after tonight he'll decide whether or not to lift it going forward. Guys?
All right, Griff Jenkins, live for us. Thank you, Griff. Nice to have you back, by the way. You did a lot of coverage.
Good to be back, and Griff's doing a great job down there, too.
Well, in other news, dozens of officers salute their fallen brother who gave his life trying to help others. Sergeant Steve Perez drowned in his car driving to work during Harvey's flooding. His wife urged him to stay home, but he told her, quote, "I've got work to do." Now, the 60-year-old Houston cop was with his department for more than 3 decades. He leaves behind 2 adult children.
As anticipated, gas prices have jumped as Texas refineries begin to recover from Harvey, although they did take a hit. According to AAA, the national average for a gallon of gas is $2.63, and that's up nearly 20 cents since last Thursday. But relief could be coming pretty soon. Corpus Christi and Texas City refineries are at pre-hurricane rates right now. Houston will increase rates as transportation and logistics become more available. So they're going to start putting out more gas, and that means it should get cheaper, and that's the good news.
Yeah, and speaking of oil refineries, the president's actually headed to North Dakota, where he will visit one oil refinery, there tomorrow, and he's going to talk about taxes.
He is going to talk about taxes, and that's the next big battle that he's got and Congress has is the budget and tax reform. The president tweeting out very simply, big week coming up, and it is a big week because they need a big victory after the debacles that we have seen lately, especially with health care. So we're hoping for some good news out of the White House on this. A
lot of work to be done in a very short amount of time, and we can show you who's going to be at that Big Six meeting. We can just put their names up there. You know, before Hurricane Harvey hit, before North Korea and their latest antics, there was already a lot to be done. The House in session for only, I think, 12 days, with 6 of those we've said are travel days back and forth. Tax reform, the budget ceiling, a lot to be done. Yeah, a lot to be done. Here's House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy talking about tax reform, what he'd like to see.
I want to see major reform, and this is something we've been working on for quite some time. I'm here with Chairman Brady. It's something that we know economically we need to do. America is at a disadvantage with the rest of the world. We need to make sure we can bring the money back to America, invest in America, create more jobs. We will get that done this year. The first step is getting a budget through. Once the budget's done, we'll move to tax reform.
Well, if you want to talk about bringing the jobs back, I think that, you know, we're talking, I think we have a 35% tax rate or something like that. And to drop that down and bring our corporate tax rate lower to bring some of those jobs back from other countries, the president talked about 15-20%. And I think a lot of people say that could explode the deficit or debt, which is a good point. But I think there is somewhere in the middle there. A lot of people say 25% could be a magic number to entice companies to stay in America and hire American workers, which is what the president was really elected on. Yeah, and his op-ed that he wrote yesterday, he talked about those specific rates. He said pro-growth, pro-jobs, pro-worker, and pro-American is what he wants. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. We're looking for the specifics, and they should come this week. Do some work. Yeah. In the meantime, you no longer need a ticket, apparently, to hang around at the Pittsburgh airport if you just want to hang out there. Today, it becomes the first since 9/11 to allow non-flyers past security. But first, they have to check in at a special desk and have their name checked against the no-fly list. The airport apparently wants to let those non-flyers have access to their shops, their restaurants, and artwork all year round. Today is the deadline for health insurance companies to set their premiums for next year. Some insurers say prices could be up to 20% higher. Congress will hold a series of meetings over the next 2 weeks on health care and stabilizing the declining health insurance exchanges and all the issues we've had with Obamacare. Insurers have until September 27th to commit to participate. Open enrollment starts on November 1st. Sean Spicer is heading back to the podium. The former White House press secretary has a new gig as a public speaker. Yeah, Politico reporting Spicer was hired by a worldwide speakers group who says audiences around the world will benefit from the same candor, wit, and insight that Spicer brought to the White House briefing room. Spicer's first paid speaking appearance will be at an investment conference in New York next week. This is how all these guys... I wonder how much he's being paid. I'm a little nosy. I want to know. Yeah, I wonder that, too. If Clinton's got $500K, Spicer's not going to get that much, but he could get some good money. All right, time now 5:11 here on the East Coast. The aspiring pastor accused of murder now blaming it on cough medicine.
I have blood all over me, and there's a bloody knife on the bed, and I think I did it.
Well, this morning he's going to have a chance to plead his case in court. And Congress ready to vote on the first batch of Harvey relief as thousands return to their flood-ravaged homes. We are live. We are back with the Fox News Alert, the horrific reality for thousands and thousands of families as they face the cost of recovery from Hurricane Harvey. It begins to set in. That's right. Many of the people who lost everything did not have flood insurance, and that is a big problem. Will Carr is live in Houston, where victims are now weighing what kind of options they have. Will.
Good morning, Rob and Heather. And when the residents come back as the sun comes up today, they'll once again come to this West Houston neighborhood and see that it is still swamped with water. Many really feeling that the city sacrificed their neighborhoods here for the betterment of the city of Houston because the swollen reservoirs have been letting water out to make sure that the dams did not break, sending water throughout the rest of the city. Now, drone video shows the extent of the damage. 85% of those impacted did not have flood insurance. residents. Yesterday, we waded into these waters with one homeowner, Lisa Kirsten. She showed us all the extent of the damage throughout here. She doesn't know when she's going to be able to return home, and I asked her how she's coping with that. Take a listen to what she said.
I have friends and family who have supported me, and they were emailing me and texting me every hour, making sure I was okay. I did cry a lot. I had some bad sleepless nights, but I will tell you, with friends and family and the love of the Houston community, we got through this.
So many homeowners expressing those same sentiments. Now, they're going to be getting a little bit of help. Tomorrow, the House is set to vote on an $8 billion aid package. You can consider that a down payment on the start of rebuilding this community. Robin, Heather.
Okay, Will, thank you so much. And all that water remains. Okay, switching gears now. Months after marching in the Puerto Rican Day Parade with a honored and convicted terror group leader, New York City's mayor now thinks there should be a parade held in his honor. This is the cover of the New York Post this morning. It's going to be a pretty popular one, we think. Bill de Blasio sounding a bit cocky in an interview with New York Magazine, saying, quote, "When I think about how crime's gone down for 4 years, graduation rates up, test scores are up, more jobs than ever in our history, you'd assume they'd be having parades out in the streets," which is what the magazine is kind of saying, where's my parade? According to a Quinnipiac University survey, though, de Blasio's approval rating recently has plummeted to 42%. There you have it, Heather.
Well, the violent group Antifa could soon be declared a street gang.
Yep.
The California lawmakers now debating how to classify the far-left protesters after violence broke out on the streets of Berkeley. Now, the city's mayor saying, quote, "Antifa is no different than a street gang, and police should start treating protesters in the anti-fascist movement accordingly."
All right. Well, the time now is 5:18. North Korea claims it has tested a hydrogen bomb 5 times more powerful than the one used on Japan during World War II. So what kind of damage could that do? Dr. Nicole Saphier breaks it down for us coming up next.
Welcome back, Fox News Alert. North Korea reportedly readying another missile test less than 48 hours after claiming to have successfully tested a hydrogen bomb. Dr. Nicole Saphier is a radiologist with a board certification in physics, and she is here to break down the physical impacts of such a powerful nuclear weapon. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
So this is the 6th nuclear bomb test for North Korea since 2006. Why is this so significant now, this one? What's the difference?
The fundamental difference between a hydrogen bomb and the atomic bombs that we've seen in the past is essentially their detonation process. Atomic bombs, how that works is you take something like uranium or plutonium and you break apart those atoms in something called fission, and that releases a ton of energy, and that's why you have a bomb.
And that was the previous 5.
That's what we've seen. Okay. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and then also the tests that we've seen in the past. With a hydrogen bomb, it actually starts out with a very small fission reaction, but that creates a secondary reaction inside called fusion. You have radioactive hydrogen particles that now are coming together for an even larger explosion that can be anywhere up to 1,000 times more powerful than that of an atomic bomb.
So up to 1,000 times more powerful than Hiroshima.
Correct. Yes.
So in terms of the after effects, what could happen?
Well, it can be broken up into 2 parts, immediate effects and then long-term effects. The immediate effects, if you've seen any of the pictures before, you see the big puff of smoke, then a big flash of light. It releases thermal energy, and that travels at the speed of light. So immediately you have heat and intense light just going. It can go for 20 miles, and anyone in that area who's not protected, the light can blind them. It can either be permanent or it can be temporary, but then the heat itself at the center, at the core of that blast, can be 300 times the temperature when someone's